Do you remember the Cougar Poseidon GT360? We covered that one quite a while ago and apparently there is an update. This is the brand new Cougar Poseidon Ultra ARGB in its 360mm version. It also exists in 240, but for today we are going to talk solely about the bigger version here. Oh, and there is also a white edition, if anybody wants that. From the looks of it, these two AIOs do not really look that similar, to be honest. The old one was hell of a lot of black with a tiny bit of ARGB, and this new Ultra edition really embraces the FPS enhancing ARGB power. It comes in a standard looking AIO type of box. Inside we'll find the AIO itself, mounting hardware for all nowadays relevant sockets, and a PWM extension and ARGB adapter cable. Yeah, I said adapter. The fan and the cover on the water block pump combo are unfortunately not that standard. The fan have quite a short cable and are daisy chainable, and for some reason, however, Cougar decided to opt for this type of cable for the ARGB. So once you've daisy chained all of the fans together and the ARGB connection from the pump, you will be required to adapt it back to 3-pin ARGB. Kind of a waste if you ask me, but yeah. The 4-pin PWM cables are standard though, thankfully, and daisy chainable, so yay. Except for the pump, that's just 3-pin. And while we are at the fans, these are actually kinda interesting. Whether you like the central glowing RGB power or not, they are somewhat unique. First of all, they got a tad of color on each border in form of a pretty big Cougar orange rubber, which does make this look kind of like the LTT version, but what I'm talking about is this. Cougar briefly explains this as the Coandă effect, which is the tendency of a fluid jet to stay attached to a convex surface. Yeah, that's the first sentence on Wikipedia. Be this as it may, they claim that having these grooves in combination with how they designed the fan blades, including the ring that goes around the blades, that the whole package will generate a vortex and enhance the airflow velocity and thus cooling effect. And we will see about that. On the stats side, these fans are supposed to spin at up to 2200 RPM, while it's pushing up to 64.95 CFM at up to 3.26 mm of H2O. Other than the special sauce on the fans, the AIO seems relatively standard. We got a pretty standard 20 FPI radiator with 400 mm long tubes, which are adjustable at the water block. They feel nice. I would have wished for like 450 mm, but that's what we got. Oh, and the glowing cap on the water block is reversible, so no matter which orientation you install the block, the logo can always be looking the right way. To get the cooler going on Intel, we need to adjust the backplate according to the socket and place it behind the motherboard. Then we need to take the Intel retention brackets and screw them onto the water block by pressing them into the slit and screwing it through the holes. And yes, this is very far from the best mounting method I've seen so far. It's annoying as hell. The screws are everything is just annoying about this, but it does the job. And wait until we get to AMD. That's a whole other topic. Then slap some of the bagged thermal paste on there and install this. And yes, I said bagged. Syringes are so much better. Anyway, over on AMD we need to install the retention brackets with the hooks onto the water block pump combo. And with that, guess we are back to the good old AMD hooks. In Cougar's defense here, they are way easier to clip in compared to the original AMD coolers, like the Ross coolers. But still, it's hooks and it's like... And with all of that said, let's see if the Ultra version actually outperforms the GT. First up is Intel, where we benchmark on a 3900K using 3 presets, 120, 250 and 320 watts. After running the fans at max, we make the fan spin slower in 10% steps, whilst noting down the noise and performance to map out a noise to performance curve. While doing all of that, the pump will always stay at 100%. At 120 watts, aka gaming, the Cougar Poseidon Ultra managed to keep the chip at 30.2 degrees C above ambient. This puts it right on the edge in between what I would describe as the very good and the not so good AIOs. Of course, only at this very low workload. But looking at the bigger picture, it's not that good. There are only a few AIOs that perform worse than this. But on the brighter side, one of those was the Cougar Poseidon GT in 360, so the Ultra is in fact an upgrade. Over on the noise to performance side for 120 watts, we did however see what this update was all about. Generally speaking, the new Poseidon Ultra might not be that much colder than the GT, but it is definitely a lot quieter. From start to finish, the new Ultra was temperature and noise-wise so much offset from the original, it doesn't even look like an update anymore. And even compared to alternatives, it doesn't look so bad anymore either. Sure, the Ultra lacks a bit in punch, but it's not that far behind the ID Cooling FX360 Pro, for example, if you consider where the series started. Once we push 250 watts through the socket, the Poseidon Ultra manages to keep the chip at 59.7 degrees C above ambient. Again, just slightly in front of the original one, but hey, at least we can consider this to be an improvement. However, comparing it to any other AIO does paint a picture of a kinda below average 360 AIO. And the noise to performance graph also got a bit worse. Sure, the AIO is definitely still a lot better than the old one, it definitely is, but the distance to the ID cooling just got bigger. And now we are getting dangerously close to an air cooler if we normalize to that noise or performance level. 320 watts is the same thing again, this time at 80.4 degrees C above ambient, as we allow the chip to go up to 110 before we stop the test, and the corresponding noise to performance graph also got worse again, now with a huge distance to the ID cooling model. Now, these were results for Intel CPUs, and even if I nagged a bit about the mounting mechanic on this Cougar AIO here for Team Red, it actually works fantastic. For AMD, we benchmark on a 7950X3D where we measure the average clock speed across all cores for any given fan speed, and we map out the noise to performance curve. And unlike what I expected, the Cougar Poseidon Ultra 360 did a fantastic job on AMD. At the very max, it actually held the same, if not a marginally better average, or the average clock speed, than the Light Loop 360 from Be Quiet. And keep in mind here, coolers that come with an offset mounting, which this one doesn't really do, these types of coolers tend to perform significantly better. Maybe the cold plate on the other side of the copper plate is offset, who knows? Well, I would like to know, but I'm just unwilling to take it apart. But no matter what secret sauce lies in here, the Poseidon Ultra definitely scored some points on the X3D chip, keeping it in line with the new Be Quiet at max and then just slightly falling behind once the fan speed was reduced. So, surprise after all, it seems like the Poseidon is just not that great of an Intel cooler. On AMD, however, it's fantastic. Or on X3D chips, it's fantastic. Now, I would love to say something on the price point of this. Unfortunately, I just don't know for how much it will retail yet. So let's make a conclusion on imaginary numbers. On Intel, get a different AIO. There are so many of them that clearly outperform the Poseidon Ultra, even something like the ultra affordable ID cooling one, and at 60 USD that thing is just unbeatable. But over on AMD or X3D chips specifically, it's a different story, and as long as this one can match Be Quiet's Light Loop's 360's price, which is about 125 euros, up until that point, sure, go for it. Does a fine job on an X3D chip. But okay, this should be everything on the Cougar Poseidon Ultra in 360, and at this point a huge thank you to Cougar for sending it over. Oh, on a side note, we have a Discord server, so if you want to join, the link is down below. And we got channel membership, so if you are planning to sell your soul for an RG poop emoji, that's one way to go. But if not, I'm also releasing the content to all members 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Except for the NDA stuff, because, you know, I don't want to get sued. Additionally, you can rest assured that the income will not only keep the channel afloat, but will also serve to study the phenomenon called Coandă effect. There must be more to that than just making a tennis ball spin in place. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to continue, have a look at our take on the ID Cooling FX360. If you are shopping for one of the best price to performance coolers, that one just reigns supreme. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.